Welcome to the Bulletproof Notion operating system. This is version 2.0 of Bulletproof Notion. Version 1.0 is what I called a work management system. And long story short, what happened was shortly after I released that, depends on what you consider shortly, but within a few months of releasing that, I was actually watching some videos about Notion on YouTube, and in the course of my journey, I stumbled on a video that taught a way of organizing the databases that created kind of an explosion of insights for me in terms of how I could completely redesign this system in a very dynamic way, and with that incorporate really everything you ever need to have at your fingertips whenever you're doing any kind of work on a client. And you know, when you think about the work that we do and everything we do that surrounds that work in order to manage everything from the files that we access to bookmarks that we need for all the apps that we need to access online, and all of it, it all factors in. And right now you probably have several different systems, if not more than several, that you will theoretically have to access throughout the day to do whatever it is you're doing for the clients, right? So you log into QuickBooks Online to work on their general ledger. You might be using an app like Keeper to handle the monthly close, and and then you have all this other knowledge that needs to be managed, notes that you take when you're at meetings and so on. So you use all these different programs likely that right now in your mind it's probably very logical that you would need to access these things in different places. I mean, I remember years ago I was using one service for file sharing where I'd have files, and another service, of course, and then bookmarks, of course, you'd have in your browser. That's the logical thing. But the problem is, for browser bookmarking systems, there's not a lot of room for context, right? And especially now when so many of the bookmarks that we have are for apps that we need to use, and there might not just be the URL to the app's sort of root website, but we might want links to specific areas within that app that we use with one client, and maybe with another client there's a different area that we need to use within that same app. So the point is, this operating system gives you extreme flexibility and extreme, what I like to call geometric layout, which means that, as opposed to a linear one. And so it means that I can link to anything from anything. It's not like folders and subfolders and the kind of structure that you're mostly locked into with almost every other app out there that you're using for almost any purpose, right? So let me dive in and show you exactly what I'm talking about. When you sign up for this program, you're going to get an email. Of course, check your spam folder. A lot of times these things have a way of landing there, especially if I'm not in your contacts. And you're going to get an email that's going to give you a series of instructions. The first thing you want to do is log into the course on my website. And when you do, the first thing you'll see in that course is the dashboard. The dashboard will give you a lot of the same important links that the email will give you. It's going to be tempting to want to go straight in and start taking the first lesson of the course. Don't. Please don't do that. Slow down and go through the dashboard, because the reality is the course is one small part of this whole entire program, which is why I'm not really calling it a course. I'm calling it a program. I'm calling it an operating system. So the first thing you're going to want actually is to get access to the system of templates that you have, that you're looking at right in front of me on my screen here. And it's a lot more than meets the eye. What you're looking at here is what will become your firm's homepage. As soon as you get this, you'll rename all this and call it, Bada Bing Bookkeeping, whatever your company's name is, right? So you'll rename this, and then you're going to start diving in. And the welcome video in the course is going to walk you through this daily section. It's really important. I want you to not ignore this. There is a method to my madness, I promise you. We have people who have been in the program already since its inception, and many of them, it might even be fair to say most of them, went ahead and kind of went into the things that they thought were interesting and ignored the things they weren't, and they all came back to me at some point and said, I wish I had done it the way you suggested, and even said that they had to go back and kind of step things back to use them in the way that I had originally laid out. They had made changes and evolved it a bit. I'm going to tell you right up front, you're going to hear me saying a lot when you do start going through the videos, not to change anything yet. Even if you think you feel comfortable doing it, again, there's a method to my madness, and there will also come a point in time in the program where I'm going to invite you to change it and do whatever you want. But as I explain in one of the videos, trying to change things now and trying to get into the back end of things and tweak it, it's sort of like trying to learn to be a mechanic before you've even learned how to drive the car, right? So you're going to go through here. You're going to learn about, oops, let's not do that. You're going to learn about the daily journal, which is really one of the cornerstones of this whole system. Yes, it's a journal where you can record your thoughts, but it's also going to be the timeline of your work, right? So as a quick example, if I have a meeting with a client today, I'm going to have meeting notes in that client's area, and I'll show you what that all looks like in a few minutes. But I'm also going to have an entry in my daily journal that references that tags it, that says at client X meeting 6/5/24. Happens to be the day I'm recording this, right? So, this becomes the timeline. Our brains function in two planes, time and space. So this gives you the timeline. It covers the time part. Everything else, where you park a meeting note in the client's notes area, that's the space where it lives, right? So you have those two important dimensions covered. A lot of times in the short term is when we'll reference something based on the timeline. I'll be like, hey, I had a meeting with that client last Tuesday. Let me go into my daily journal, pull up last Tuesday, because I know from there I'm going to have a link that'll take me right to where I want to go, right? So it's that kind of thing. Over here, and you'll kind of hear me reference this, during the lessons, is where, under goals, I consider this part of like the sort of spiritual and mental part, really, is having goals written out. This is a reference to the book Think and Grow Rich, and what he has you do by chapter 3, where you write out this whole statement and you recite it twice daily, right? Some of the stuff you can take or leave. The daily journal, you definitely got to take. I'm telling you, you would be missing a crucial piece of this whole system if you don't start learning how to use the daily journal, okay? Time and people. I skipped over body. This is a personal thing, but the space is there because I really want you to think about your physical health. What does it have to do with what you do for a living? Absolutely everything. The better I take care of my physical health, I'm a firsthand example of this. The better you get into shape physically, the better you'll do in terms of your work. You'll be more energetic. You'll be more focused. I promise you, everything in the work that you do is going to get better when you take care of your physical health. And this is first because it should be first. First thing you do every day should be something based on what and when I'm going to do something for my health, right? So I don't want to get too into what you're going to learn in the lessons, but I just want to give you a little bit of the bird's eye view of what's going on in here and why. On the right, I'm going to skip this for now. You'll learn about this. These are quick reference links into areas that are represented elsewhere here. It's just, this is the stuff you're going to want access to really quickly, like your Calendly links, because throughout the day, you're going to get asked by people, if they can schedule a call with you. And this way, it's right here at your fingertips, because by the way, one of the other first things you'll learn with this system is this is open all day long. It's the first thing you open. It's the first tab you open every day, and it's the last tab you're going to close, okay? I'll skip over the education stuff and the wiki stuff, and we're going to get right down here, down to business, all right? So here's your bookmarks, right? And I've got some examples in here of stuff that might appear in yours, right? And the beauty of this is, as this gets really long, first of all, you can cut up different views to group by category, and notice I have some tags here. But also, what I end up using almost all the time, all day long, is I use this little search guy here, right? So if you're in here and you're looking for my website, you can type as much as nerd, and there it is, right? Some other things came up because the word nerd appears in them, in the URL. So the search is really good. It's searching all the different pieces, right? But bottom line, really easy. And notice this copy icon. If I'm actually trying to send this to somebody, this makes it super easy, right? I just click that copy icon, and then I can alt tab over to my email, paste it in, or into a Slack message, or wherever that's going, right? So this is your bookmarks view. Next you have contacts. So you're going to add contacts in here. This is going to become your CRM if you want it to be, or you can just use it to keep track of contacts information. Point being, while I'm doing my work with a particular client, and I may be working with a particular vendor on that client, or whatever the case might be, my contacts are right here. When I have somebody's number in here and I'm using the mobile app, I can tap that mobile number and it will activate my phone app on my mobile device, and I'd be calling him. Same thing here. With the email address in place, I can click this and it'll open up my email app, which for me happens to be Gmail or Google Workspace. And so I can get in here and I can click here, and I'm off and running, sending the person an email, okay? And you'll see later where all this information can get pushed into a particular project even. So as I'm working on a project, I don't even have to go out to my global page. I'm in the project. I have everything right there in a similar setup with tabs across, where I can quickly get to the contacts that are working with me on that project, and I can bang a link and get them into the email so I can start sending them something. Workers is where you'll list the people who work for you, whether they be employees or contractors. In my state, they would have to be employees, but in your state, you may still be able to hire them as contractors. For example, if they're bookkeepers doing work for your bookkeeping firm. Alex Morgan is a made-up name, and over here you can see I've got him assigned to the client Chipbricks Real Estate, and so this page ultimately gets shared with Alex. That's how he accesses his client, so he can't see anything else unless I associate it here with his page, you know, by way of a client that I'm assigning to him. And of course, when you get into the program, you'll learn how to set all this up, and well, not set it up, it's already set up, but you'll learn how to add a new client and get it associated with Alex Morgan, right? And here's the clients. So I've got some sample clients in here, obviously, for the lessons that I've been recording and so on. And you just saw Chipbricks Real Estate because that was associated with Alex, right? And so from here, I can click, I can open up a client. In the previous example, when I clicked open, it opened in what's called a side peek. This is called a center peek, and I can click this double arrow to make it full page, or I can click here and change it to side peek. So, and you know, these are Notion features that just give you a lot of flexibility in terms of, you know, how to work with things, right? And I'll come back to the clients in a minute, and we'll dive deep into what the clients area looks like. But first, I want to just go through all the other kind of main databases that you have here, right? This is the client's what's called a gallery view. Here's the calendar. So here's where I can manage what day I'm working on which client. And for that matter, if it's assigned, if this is, for example, assigned to Alex, then this is going to be Alex's responsibility to manage on his calendar, which he'll have, you know, on his page. And so if I go in here now and see this, and I see, you know, hey, this is, you know, this needs to be moved forward. When is this going to be worked on next? First of all, I can go here, and I can go to properties, and I can say I want to see the assigned to in this view. So I just added that, boom, and not a bad way to keep it, right? So now I can see right here that this is Alex's, so I can reach out to Alex and I can say, hey Alex, what gives? How come Chipbricks is still sitting in yesterday's you know, calendar? It needs to be moved, right? And then he can go in and drag it over and say, yeah, I'm going to be working on it again tomorrow, right? And then these obviously would be the ones for today. So we got calendar views, we got gallery views, this is a table view, the way the bookmarks are set up, right? So there's lots of different ways you can slice and dice this information. Over here we've got projects, and I'll remind you that we're in the global firm view, which means we're seeing everything for every client. There's no sort of filters applied to this. This is one thing that I've noticed seems very difficult to come by in any project management apps that I've worked with. It seems often very difficult to get this kind of global bird's eye view, at least not in a way that's sort of digestible, right? A lot of times apps that do this, especially when you start accumulating a lot of data in your system, it gets very overwhelming, and it's like it's not useful. You can't look at it. I'm going to show you in a minute where the global task views, no matter how much sort of critical mass you hit in terms of the volume of data, you can still make sense of it, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. Right, so this is the projects, and you can see I've configured this gallery view to show the client. Right, this is the client. This, of course, is the name of the project, and we also have the name of I'm sorry, it's a different client associated with the same project. That was dumb of me. It's not normally something you would see, but in one of the videos I gave an example of where if you needed to, if you had a project that somehow involved two different clients, the flexibility exists for you to do that. Sorry, that tripped me up for a second. Right, all the others you can see, it's just got the one client associated with it that we need. Right, so this is one view of your project, and again, you can look at any of these views in any of the formats that you've seen. This is just the way I like to see projects because it's nice and visual. Right. Then we have tasks. So this is a global task view, and as you can see, it's everything because it's global, right? So here's all the different clients that we have tasks assigned to so far, and this is just a straight table view. Over here, I can click and confirm that it's being sorted by the task name. Obviously, you can sort it by anything you want, by any column, or you know what these columns are called in Notion are properties. Right, so you can sort it by anything you want. You can sort it by project, and then within that by task, or by client, then project, then task. Right, you can do multiple sorting levels. Very easy to do. Over here you have your documents database, and I won't go into too much detail because again there's lessons for that in the program, but I do want to explain that first of all there would normally be an attachment here. I had a PDF I was using as an example, but it's like a real document that I don't want anybody else getting access to. So just know that normally there would be an attachment here, and the thing I want to point out about this is of course you could put a PDF, you could put a Word document, any kind of sort of document can go in here, but also you can embed a link, which is what you would do if you wanted to include, let's say, a Google Sheet, right? So one of the pieces of feedback I got from one of our 97 and up members was that he would name spreadsheets just to, like when he would just start up a spreadsheet to do some kind of an analysis, and he would name it something not necessarily, I guess, all that relevant to what it was, because his problem was he was on the scavenger hunt. He, later on he'd be looking for that spreadsheet in a sea of spreadsheets and had no idea what was where. So here, you would embed the link to that spreadsheet. Of course, you would name it properly. You would include whatever other clarifying information you'd want to include about the type of document, whatever it is, right? All that's here so that now it doesn't matter. You can leave everything in your My Drive folder in Google Drive and use Notion, use the Notion operating system to organize it. And each document that you have can be pushed to a client, a project, a task. It can be sent to a worker. It can be sent to a contact. It can be sent into a particular note. So the idea here is that this document can be associated with any number of things, which is a good example of what makes this system geometric in nature, as I mentioned earlier, because it's not like I just have to go to the documents and go to the linear table view to find that document when I need it. Notice here it's associated with the property taxes project. So if I click into this real quick and I go here into property taxes, here's project documents, and here's that same document. And that's a quick drill down into an example of what I'm talking about when I say when you're working on this property taxes project, you have access to everything. You have access to just the bookmarks you need while you're working on that project. Of course, open tasks associated with it, any closed tasks, notes, and then documents, right? So let me back up and get out of that. And that's the documents. And then, of course, there's notes. And obviously, notes can be anything. It can be, I had a call with a prospect, right? I had a call with a prospect called Skyline. I created a note in one of the lessons called My Affiliate Links, which takes a view of the Bookmarks database and says, only show me the ones that have an affiliate link. So if somebody calls me up and says, hey, I need your affiliate link for such and such, or they send me a Slack message, I can click into this. I can quickly pull up my Keeper affiliate URL, copy that, and go into Slack and send it to him, right? So this is what I mean. It's truly putting everything you ever need at your fingertips, right? So these are your notes, and we're looking at the notes in the global view. You're going to see all these same things inside of each client, and as you just saw at a glimpse, you're going to see it inside projects. So before I dive into a client and walk through that side of things, let's take a look down here. Because I know that the tasks themselves are such a critical thing that you want to be able to manage, especially as the firm administrator, I created this other sort of set of views for you. And it's global, but it's task views. And as you can see, what I've got going on here now is I've got it grouped by client. So it's grouped by client, and then within that, you have all that client's tasks, right? And anything with a status of, that's basically not completed yet, right? This is just open tasks. Over here, you have the calendar version, right? So if we look back here, and I don't know how update this is, this is sample data, of course. So if it's driven by the next due DO data, and this is when I'm going to do it, not when it needs to be done by, because if I wait till the date it needs to be done by and it takes more than a sitting to do, I'm in trouble, right? So that's another thing I've never seen really addressed in a way that I thought was done well in any kind of project management system, is this kind of important distinction. You can actually use two dates. You can add an end date and do it that way. I just don't like the way that shows up in a calendar view, so this is my preference. If you don't mind that, then by all means have at it. Again, the flexibility is there for you to do it, in whatever way works best for you, right? So here I can analyze by client and see which tasks I have to be done. I can sort it by next due date, right? So I can kind of quickly see. Let's do that. Okay, and I'll just save that real quick so I can look back and say, hey, this stuff's going back to May 10th. What's going on? So here's your bird's eye view of everything that needs to be done. And if you see things that are falling behind, you can certainly reach out to the responsible party and see what's going on. And so if I go back to the task calendar, I can see here's 2 tasks. Let's move them over. Well, this one would be for today if it's not actually done yet, and then I've got one scheduled for next week. And then this is what's called a timeline view. It's not my favorite, but you might like it. So I've got it here for those who might like it, and it's certainly an option. So the timeline view obviously needs some dates, and then you have to tell it, you know, like how to use the dates, which dates to use, and so on. So when you go to the timeline view, in this case, it's showing it by the DUE date, right? But I can change that to that next due date and close it, and that should have reconfigured it. If I go to today, here we are, right? So that is here, and as you'll learn as you go through the lessons, you can customize these views. You can add views. There's a whole series of lessons where I teach you little by little how to get in here and really kind of own this. And then there's a point in the process where I'm going to invite you to, you know, assuming you do feel comfortable, and by the time I'm doing it, it's my assumption that you likely will, I'll invite you in to start saying, hey, now that you know how to tweak this and know how not to break things, you know, have at it, go evolve it, make it your own, you know, have it your way kind of thing. So that's your global views. Let's dive into a client real quick, and I will show you what it looks like once you're inside of a client. Okay, so I can expand the client full page so I can focus on that client. I do a lot of control clicking, right? So if I come back up here, you have these breadcrumbs up here. If I go back up to my firm, and now I'll just quickly show you one of the things here. We have the client's quick access. I'll control click client dashboard, so that opens up in a new tab. Okay, and then from here, I'll control click Chip Bricks Real Estate. So now I've got one tab with my firm's admin page open. I've got one tab that's just my clients, and I've got views for this broken up based on the different kind of services that we offer. So this is showing everyone. This is only going to show me the clients we do bookkeeping for, advisory, and tax prep, right? So we go into Chip Bricks, and notice I've got it assigned to Alex Morgan. He's my assigned to. And so here we've got what I call quick views, quick tasks, quick notes. Over here you have a series of menus very similar to what we saw on the global page, a few less, right? We have bookmarks, projects, tasks, notes, documents, and contacts, right? And you can add more if there's some other thing you want included here. Again, during the course of the program, you'll learn how to customize and add more stuff to these things. If you want to focus on tasks, you can click over here on this little double arrow, and I'll control click it. And now I'm focused just on the tasks for Chip Bricks Real Estate. So I can get in here and really focus. I can say, all right, let's look at some of these due dates. If I look at my week view, I can see what's going on in the current week, right? I click today, it takes me to today. That stuff was, I think, back a few weeks maybe. There it is. So here's a quick example of how slick this is. From this view, I don't have access to the whole month. So if I click month and I then toggle back, I can quickly click and drag and just say, let's move all these things down. Like, hey, whoa, we got a lot of stuff hanging back there that just didn't get brought forward. And if it was done, it wouldn't be here. Once something is marked done, it disappears from the view, and we would, you know, access a sort of completed tasks view. So I'm just going to drag everything over here so that it's in the current day. Now I can go back to the week view and go to today. And see how nice that is? And of course here in the table I can see a lot more of the details, and you'll notice the next due dates have been updated. These are in the future because these are property taxes, which typically will get paid around this date, right? So this is how we would focus on tasks. These are the statuses, right? CBO task 1 would not necessarily show up in these views, but you have to configure them to exclude anything with a done status, right? And again, you'll learn how to do all of that in the course. A lot of these views are set up that way initially, but not all of them. I want you to kind of do things the way I like to do things, at least in the beginning, which is I don't necessarily filter things out until I start hitting a volume or a critical mass of volume where I'm like, okay, I don't want to see the done stuff anymore. But in the beginning, I don't mind seeing everything because I'm starting to sort of form my systems around the data beyond what I've already got, right? So that's the task view. You can do the exact same thing with your notes. Here I have an example of a view in the notes that's carved out just to show meetings. So here's meeting agenda 1. Obviously you would have a better name for this based on the date and maybe who was meeting and so on, right? So you can do the same thing with notes. And down here you have the same view. The difference here from what you just saw in the previous screens was this is all just focused on stuff for this one client. So I'm only seeing bookmarks that have gotten associated with this client. Here I'm going to get into projects, right? So this client is a real estate developer. So I have a project for each of his LLCs with the properties that he owns, right? I also have a project for his banking. Some people might wonder, why is banking a project? Why isn't it just a task? You can certainly set things up that way if you want, but banking to me is something you're going to be doing each week at least. And the definition of a project, as I explain in the program, is anything that requires 2 or more actions to complete, which this definitely does, because weekly we're going to be updating bank feeds, right? Monthly we're going to be reconciling statements, and there's probably a number of other things in between. Plus, in the course I show you a system I have for how we keep a log of the client's bank accounts and credit card accounts and do like a quick snapshot of their kind of net worth. It's something very useful, and clients happen to love it, and it's just a really good thing to do. And it's one of those things I think a lot of clients would love their bookkeeper to do and maybe wonder why they don't do it, but they don't ask because they don't really quite know what to ask for. So you want to blow the client away, start doing stuff like this. And this makes it really easy to manage it, because here you'll have, I don't have any samples in here, but in the video you'll see me go through a series of examples of how that works. I mentioned that these are real estate developers, and there's a property taxes project, which you'll notice is actually associated with all of the clients. And this is something that came up that I mentioned earlier as an example, where they were like, how do I handle this? Because I will have a task for each client to pay the property taxes, right? Like I've got these here actually, and let me back up. We have one of these for each project, right? So this client manages Woodland Properties, Skyline, Springfield, Brick and Mortar, right? You see the same ones down here. These are the projects. And each one of them is a property that we need to pay property taxes for. So we have a different task. Normally, I would probably have you name the task a little bit differently so the task name itself identifies the project it goes with. But the other issue is there may also be other clients that we have who also have properties whose property taxes also need to be paid. So she wanted to see how could we create something that gives me a view of all the pay property taxes tasks across all the clients, all the projects, so that when I sit down to pay the property taxes, again, the whole idea of this whole system is everything I need is right there at my fingertips when the time comes to do the job, and I don't have to go hunting around for stuff. So enter the property taxes project. If I open this up and go to open tasks, here they are, right? Here's all the property taxes for all the projects that they need to get paid for, right? And if I don't have examples of where there's a different client here, I don't think. But if there were, they could be included here too, right? So this is how you have the infrastructure to create something that will capture, again, all these examples of where we have to pay property taxes for these different projects or clients. Okay, so from here I can see where the client is that this is associated with. So I'll click back into the client from there. So again, it's very geometric. It's not linear like most other applications. I can easily get to anything from anything, and I can easily aggregate things the way I want, right? So even within a project, let's go back here and let's look at I don't know, Skyline Ventures. I don't think I've got much sort of example data here, but we can just look at this real quick. So in a project, I've got bookmarks, I've got open tasks, right? Here's the pay property taxes one, but now we're only seeing one because it's only the one that's associated with this exact project. Any finished tasks, any notes, here's that Skyline call, which makes sense because we're in the Skyline Ventures project. So here's a note we took based on a call we did. Now here we didn't use a template, in setting this up, but you can see I have a call notes template for simple stuff, and I have meeting agenda templates if it's a full-fledged meeting, right? And then here's any documents that I might have associated with this project. So when it comes time to work on this client, and then while I'm on this client, I want to spend time focusing on this one particular project, I have everything I absolutely need right here. I don't need to go into any other browser tabs. I don't need to go into any other applications, or if I did, those applications bookmarks would be right here. I would go click, 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 or hold down the control key so each one opens up in a new tab, and boom, I'm off and running, and I still have what I need right at my fingertips. Down here, you're seeing a generic kind of SOP template that gets sort of included every time you create a new project. This is here because potentially, if you're adding a new project for a client, you might need an amended agreement signed. So the step is here to confirm, that it is signed if you do need it. And then this is just a generic SOP in terms of prepping a project, right? Define the purpose of the project. How important is this? What is the outcome I'm hoping to, what does this look like when it's done? David Allen strongly suggests including a brainstorming stage, especially if it's a bigger picture kind of project. Then organizing. Once I've done all the above, now I can start organizing. That's when I'm going to start adding tasks to the project, based on organizing all the stuff I've done above and seeing, all right, what do I need to do next? When do I need to work on this? These are all pages, so I can open, and then I've got some things in each page, in most cases, that will help you kind of clarify what's meant to be done at each stage of this, right? And then there's the most important one that always needs to be identified. It should become inherent in your open tasks here, and then the due dates. But what do I need to do next? What's the next thing I need to do? The reason most of us get stressed out about all the projects we're working on is we don't have a clue what to do next. That's usually the problem. And we get into the project, and that's the first thing we have to figure out. And that alone can eat up 15, 20 minutes of time. But if you have a good system like this, then you should be able to click right into the project, sort by next due date, and the first thing in that list should be the next thing that you need to do. And sometimes it's helpful to actually go in here, and you can, click on this to open it, and you can answer these questions initially, but also you can just go in here every time you're about to close up shop for the day, go in here and just log something and say, this is the next thing I need to do when I come back here again. Get in the habit of doing something like this, and I promise you, you will feel so on top of every project that you have to do for every client you ever have to do it for, that your stress won't just be diminished, it will be gone. I can promise you that. You will have zero stress around doing all the work that you have to do for your clients. You won't know what to do with the extra time you have, and I'm serious. So I think that's just about everything. Quick bird's eye view. I promise you, there's hours and hours of video in the lessons, and then we have a Slack workspace. So you're going to join this program. You're going to get the email. You're going to log in and get to the dashboard. The dashboard's going to give you the links to confirm you don't forget what things you need to access. You're going to get the lessons on the website. You're going to get the Slack workspace where you can ask all the questions you want and clarify. And as I think we mentioned on the landing page where you're watching this video, if you're signing up for this by the week of June 10th, 2024, you're going to get 8 live calls with me. We're going to do 1 a week starting the week after you signed up. So if you waited till Friday, it's going to be pretty soon after. The idea is I want to dive in with you right away and get you plugged into the system. The beauty of this is, as I think I explained already, when you come here, you're going to have a little duplicate button. Your version is going to be view only. You're going to click the duplicate button. It's going to copy this whole system into your Notion account. Once you do that, you're going to have your own freestanding Notion system of templates, and then you're going to be off and running. So that's when you'll want to start going through the lessons and jump into the Slack and ask me questions. It's what I'm here for. And the live Q&A will be for me to provide any additional context around your specific situation, things that might come up as a group. And then if you need to ask a question that requires that you share sort of intimate details of your clients or your business, then in Slack you can DM me those kind of questions. If you do DM me and it's not that kind of question, I'm going to invite you to please re-ask the question in a public channel, because obviously other people may have the same question and I want them to benefit from the answers. Plus, if every single person starts DMing me questions that can easily be asked at the group level, my time will quickly be diminished, and that's not the point, right? So anyway, that is all. If you have any questions about this, then you know how to find me. I'm easy to reach. Ask me your questions. Otherwise, if you're ready to, if you think this is right for you, then click the button below to get signed up, save a ton of time, have a system you can trust. And the reason you can trust it is because it's a system that's built for you to be able to capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage with absolutely everything you need to do in your business. Again, if you think this is right for you, if you're convinced that this is going to save you time, I'm convinced it will, then sign up and we'll get you started right away and get into the 8-week workshop where I will work with you to make sure that you have the system completely dialed in, and that by the end of that 8 weeks, you should already see a significant reduction in your operational drag. And I look forward to seeing you in the course.